How about we start with actually a new uniform that we've been sent. Coach Nick Welch hooked us up and sent some photos of a new uniform. United Township, they're up first. They're on the board. What'd you see? What do you like? Tell me.
When I was doing research, or are you trying to, do as much research as I could, looking up old pictures or old stories and trying to find pictures of uniforms, it seemed like UT has gone through some changes over the years, probably more than the other teams. Looking at the list of the Western Big Six, a lot of those teams have really kind of kept the same look. And UT has probably done that more than others, maybe Galesburg, but it seems like, at least from things that I saw, UT has really done a good job of trying to mix it up. And I think they've really done a good job this year. And for anyone who hasn't seen them yet, it's a very clean look. It reminds me a lot of Oklahoma State, if you're familiar with the college game.
Yeah.
They're probably, if you're talking that sort of color scheme, the orange, the black, and the white, like Oklahoma State is the standard. Like, they do no wrong. They do absolutely nothing wrong. And so with UT coming in, it's a Nike jersey. It has some sleek stripes. It's got nice piping on the collars. The numbers really stand out. But really, probably the biggest change from previous years is the helmet.
They've gone through some helmets, because they had a couple of years ago, they had like a panther claw mark.
Yeah, right.
Which I like that, but it doesn't really brand itself as United Township. So I can see both ways. I liked it, but yeah.
Right. And that's hard to do, especially when your nickname is Panthers, because you're looped in with a lot of teams who are Panthers, Tigers, Cougars, whatever it may be. And they've, they're utilizing the paw print, which a lot of teams do, but what they're doing on their helmet is not only having that, but they're also having the UT crest on the other side. And that's always an interesting look, and I think they pulled it off.
Okay. General question. What are your thoughts on the decals not matching on each side of a helmet?
I think it's possible. There are certainly examples of it not working. But I think with UT, they did a good job of being able to, like you said, brand themselves in a way that's familiar with not only the nickname, but with the school name, by having the crest on one side and the panther on the panther paw print on the other.
Yeah, I like the look of these new uniforms. I like that they've seemed to embrace the orange. There's the white jersey has all the orange trim on it, and I think they got a good look going here. And what's interesting to note is I asked Coach Schlemmer from Sterling, and earlier in this episode, Coach Morrissey from Moline. And when I asked about other uniforms beside their own team that they would go with, they both said UT.
Okay.
And Coach Morrissey went in as far as saying, like, now the Soul Bowl has turf, and just the way that turf really pops, that it's a whole look. I agree with him on that. I think that there's something to be said there. They got a good look here, and I think I'm not crazy about the helmets decals not matching on each side, but I think they pulled it off here. I think it's one of those two that maybe when you see it under a Friday night light, it'll have a whole different look than when you look at it in a text message picture. It might pop a different way, it might shine a different color, it might be a little brighter under a light. So give it some time. All right, hey, we're moving on to Galesburg. Silver streaks. I gotta say, I always feel like, and maybe it's the color scheme, maybe I just like the silver and gold and black, but there's so much potential in Galesburg. They always have, like, man, they could have some really awesome uniforms. They're embracing more of a neon color now, which is different than years past. I feel like it's kind of like it's Oregon's influence, I feel like, a little bit. And what are your thoughts on that? We'll start there. Like that?
I'm not going to be critical of anybody because I don't think it's a bad look. I'm not going to say that I like it better than what they used to be. And that's probably more just not really embracing the neon as a fan.
Yep.
But it also violates one of my main rules that I can get in.
Here we go.
And that is that at least when you play at home, I am not a fan of a lighter jersey or wearing a lighter jersey than the color of the pants. And so when they have their neon yellow jersey and black pants,
okay,
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not. It's just not
something that I look for and something that I look at and say, like, okay, I can get behind that. Not saying it's bad. It's just maybe not my taste.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up the neon jerseys because they kind of like surprise brought those out last year, I think on a Saturday against Rock Island maybe. And my phone is blowing up. I think Matt Randazzo was there from Channel 8, and he was immediately texting me. He's like, hey, you got to see this. You got to see this because he knows. But I love the look of they do the railroad tracks down the middle.
Yes. Yep.
I'm a big fan. Any team in high school that does something unique that's not a replica of a college or a pro look, that's awesome. Like, be your own identity. So that's really cool. And I think that I like they do an all-white at home. Or, sorry, they do the all-white road look, which I like.
Yep.
So I don't know. I always thought they could do a lot more with, the more gold and silver, but they've gone with the neon. So we'll see if that trend continues. But overall, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, even if it's not, your or my taste, kudos to them for standing out because it's certainly the brightest of the Western Big Six.
Yes. Well, I think, and it's interesting that we started with UT and Galesburg because they've shifted the most. I mean, their uniforms have changed the most over the years. And then, man, you get in some of these teams like the, Geneseo especially. They never change. They have the look. Alleman has a look, and it sticks. And that's kind of the calling card of the conference. But, these two teams have kind of created, their own look, and they've tweaked it over the years. But, yeah. All right. Moving on here. Where are we going next? And speaking of, Geneseo.
Yeah.
I think you could have looked up pictures from last year or from 1974, and you're going to get the exact same look.
Yeah, and that's not to look ahead to where I'm going, but this is one of my top three.
Okay. Yep.
It's such a classic look, and that is part of it that they've had it for so long, and you can make it, you can change that color scheme a bunch of different ways. But they haven't, and they really, they've got the striped socks, which is really, A1 in the uniform.
Yeah.
But then they also incorporate the stripes in the pants and on the shoulder stripes and on the helmet. And you never want to have, you couldn't wear those socks without stripes on any other part of the jersey. That wouldn't look good. But the way that they do it with every level, so to speak, of the uniform having stripes incorporated, it just makes it look so good. And just seeing them, it kind of even if they're not playing well, in a game or in a season or whatever it might be, that look kind of denotes success. It just looks like they're good, right?
Yes.
And they, that might be, they might get the benefit from, having the Packer-like look. But it's just, you see that uniform, and especially on that field, that helps it too. But you see that uniform. To me, you see that uniform, whether it's home or whether they're away. It's perfect. It is perfect.
Almost more so than when I see Geneseo. Almost more so than I think of Friday nights. I think of a sunny Saturday afternoon at Bob Reed Field. That uniform just pops in that situation.
Yeah.
And I'm giving a lot of praise, and I agree with you. I'm giving a lot of praise to a uniform that looks pretty darn close to the Green Bay Packers, which disgusts me. I can't believe I'm going to say that. I have to note, though, the green is a little different color.
Yeah.
The green is not as dark. Geneseo is a lighter green. So if we're going to be, if we're going to get it accurate, it's not the Green Bay Packers completely.
Right. And I know that they are very specific about that. I remember it was a video, I think it was on QAD when they introduced the new stadium, that they were talking about how big the midfield logo is. And they were talking about how specific the G is different, even if it's not by the eye, it is different than the Packer G.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It's a great look overall. It's very solid. All right, let's see where are we headed next. Moline. Interesting to note about Moline is they deviated from the Block M in 17 and 18. They had success with it. They won 2 conference titles. Or no, I'm sorry. I think 18 and 19. Sorry, 18 and 19.
Yeah, right.
Won a
right.
conference title in one of those years. They were wearing the Wolverine stripe. That's not Moline to me. It just didn't look right. So they're going back to the Block M now, which I think is huge. And when I look at that uniform, when they're wearing the white helmet and the all white uniform, that look is crisp. That's a good looking uniform. I like Moline's all white look.
Yeah. The maroon and white is just a classic color in any sport. And Moline kind of denotes that too. If you're just thinking of like Wharton or their football team, like it's just kind of like Geneseo, like you see those colors and they're just, even if they're not on the court or on the field successful, you think that they are because they look like they are. And yeah, when they moved to the wings, I think I remember that day, like when it broke on Twitter. I think the coach had tweeted it out, and you and I were just like, whoa, like what is going on here?
It was aggressive. Yeah.
And here's the thing with the wings, because if it's Princeton, if it's Delaware, if it's Michigan, if it's Morrison,
yep,
none of those teams make sense to have wings. Like none of those mascots, or Maroons for that matter, none of those teams, or maybe it's just because no one knows here. No one knows what this is. Like, why are these called wings? Because I think it started at Princeton, or did it start in Delaware? I don't know.
Oh, that's a good question.
If it started in Delaware, that doesn't make sense. This doesn't look like a blue hen wing, but
certainly not.
It doesn't look like a Wolverine. It doesn't look like a maroon or a tiger. So kudos to Moline for trying it. And I don't think that it's like, that's not because is maroon a bear? Like, it's not like you would look at that and be like, well, that's not a bear.
Yeah.
The wing is just such a unique design, and it's weird to say that it works for some schools and not the others. But for me, for one, I also didn't really understand it at Moline.
Yeah. It kind of fit the team a little bit. And I should have asked Coach Morrissey what the thought process was. And maybe it was, player's choice, or I'm not sure where it started, but I felt like it fit the team a little bit because they were a fast team. They had a high powered offense and they could move the ball. So I think, it fit that description a little bit when you see that look. But man, seeing their look now I love the white helmet. Moline traditionally had the maroon helmet with the white M. I like it being flipped. I really like the white helmet. They got some nice shoulder striping now, and it's a really solid look. I'm a big fan overall of Moline's look.
Yeah, and if anyone hasn't seen that, it's the header on their Twitter page. So if we're not able to show, if you're just listening to this or we can't show pictures, if you go to Moline's football Twitter page, or the head coaches, I'm not really sure. It's the header page. Their new look is on the header, and it looks really nice.
So there you go. All right, Quincy, kind of the team that at least in the Quad Cities we cover all the teams, but then Quincy's kind of the outlier. So, right. But yeah, we're talking Quincy. I like their look a lot.
Yeah,
I think that the Q they kind of have embraced kind of like the Oregon O a little bit. It's stretched a little bit, and it's got kind of a chrome look to it. It's like a blue, but like almost like a metallic. I like that. I think last year, a couple years ago, they've done a couple different like alternate. They did like a gray. They did a black uniform one time. So that's cool. I will say I'm a big fan of alternate uniforms if it's done right, but also like I prefer it to be like a fundraiser or like somebody's raising money for it. I don't want to see the school. I would love to see alternate uniforms. I don't need an Illinois school spending, money on extra uniforms. So I hope that I'm sure most schools are doing it that way, that they're, getting the money raised. But just a little side note there. But what do you think, Quincy?
When you see it, and especially if you see the blues at home with the white and then the white pants, it screams Duke. And that goes also with the Blue Devil nickname. And I don't know what they do on their basketball court, but I don't know if they're trying to kind of go after that. But it's a clean look. It's a super clean look. You can't do too much to screw up blue and white, and especially when you have it like they do.
and incorporate if it's a black. Like that's a perfect, alternate color to blue and white. Or if they, like you said, it was like a gray or like a lighter blue type of jersey. It was a little different, but it still looked okay. I think they have Nike jerseys, so they look nice, they look sharp. So yeah, it's a job well done in Quincy.
Well, when you have Jarrell Brock as your running back, I mean, you're pretty much going to look good no matter what you do. So
yeah, you could wear jeans and it wouldn't matter.
I don't know if I'd advise that. I don't know if that's
well, they might be able to get away with it. He might.
All right, we're getting back to the Quad Cities. Rock Island Alleman. Another traditional look.
Yeah,
they've stuck a lot with the same style. They haven't deviated. Their jersey, they've deviated a little bit. They kind of updated it when for years it was always kind of the same exact thing. What do you think?
Another classic look that is mainly two color. I think they kind of incorporate a little bit more silver than they do white.
I think they actually kind of tweaked that. I think they might have white pants now, but for years it was always silver. Yeah.
Yeah. So either way, you can kind of keep white and silver hand in hand, so to speak. I did like when they had, I think if I'm looking again, this is a disclaimer that we might be looking at older pictures or we might not have seen if they have something new. But I liked it when they had the bigger Alleman as opposed to the littler one.
That's a new switch.
Kind of like Geneseo and Moline do it. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more stretched out. So I liked the older Alleman uniforms that looked like that. But another classic look, if they're playing on Augie's Field, I remember growing up watching those games, they'd always be the top game on the zone. If it was, if it was Rocky versus Alleman, and you'd see the green helmet with the white, and it's like you said, it's a classic look. They haven't deviated from it. They don't do much wrong. I would just like to see the bigger Alleman stretched up across the plates.
Yep. I preferred the silver, the pants. Yeah. I think that overall, I think we both agree that a couple of years ago, the way it had been traditionally for years, I really like that. And it's, it's kind of that same feel you get with Geneseo. Like it looks successful. That's
right.
They've won plenty of games wearing that jersey or that uniform look. So, why deviate from it? And we're kind of the same thing. Here we go. Rock Island. Much different, much louder colors, but they don't change a whole lot, similar to Alleman.
Yep. A lot of teams in the area have red, not necessarily red, yellow, and white, but certainly red. And I think Rock Island is a little bit brighter when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. And recently, if it was new in 2019 or new prior to that, but when they've got their red on and it says the Rock, and they've got the stripes now on the pants, and I think that they have red and white pants. Yep. This is the second rule that I haven't brought up yet. Okay. And they don't follow it, but it's an exception to the rule. And this one is that I always like it when the helmet matches the pants.
Yep. Oh, I've heard that plenty from you. Yes.
And when Rocky's at home, it's yellow, red, or yellow, red, white, whatever it may be. They are an exception to that rule because it looks so good. Those colors are crisp. They're the right sort of shade, and they pop.
See, I'm glad you say that because over the years when we've been covering sports and we'll be talking to people, like I get people who criticize and say oh, those are terrible colors to put together. And I'm like, I don't know. To me, it looks great. I love the look of it. And you give me, that shot down the scrimmage line of Moline and Rock Island, about to square off. That just looks iconic rivalry. I love those two uniforms paired together. That rivalry the colors are perfect. And I like the different things that they do. I love the helmet. I love the RI logo. I know it's simple. It's nothing super flashy, but it's iconic. You immediately recognize that yellow helmet with that red RI on it. Actually, it's sitting right here behind me. So I really like the look. They had a Rocks script that they would put on the chest and stuff, which I thought was cool. That was kind of a more vintage look or a retro look. But I also agree with you. The Rock is cool. That's a cool touch. It's fun.
Do they still wear their black alternative ones, or was that years past?
That was several years ago, and that was actually that was their full-time home look, which Yeah, that was a little too much. It was fine if it was an extra, but yeah,
Right.
the all black at home all the time, I felt like they kind of were getting away from their true colors, So
Right. Yeah. If you have two colors, and this kind of goes back to Quincy, if you have two main colors and you add a black, like you can get away with that depending on how it looks. When you have three main colors like Rocky does with red, yellow, white, and you try and add a fourth one, that's too much. Just leave it, keep it clean, just leave it alone.
That's why you're on the podcast. This is gold. This information is gold. All right. One of the newest members of the Western Big Six, Sterling. They're also the defending Western Big Six champion. So being from Morrison, you've seen Sterling for years. So I feel like they used to do a lot more like bright yellow, and they had some really loud uniforms. Now they've kind of gone to a really clean look and utilized white and the blue.
Yep.
And I like it. I like what they've done the last few years, and it helps when we've talked about when they're playing well, when that team is putting up a ton of points, that they look good, they play good. Like I like their look.
Yeah. Their logo is classic to the area. In another team that if you've ever been to that stadium and how it kind of looks like a D3 campus, you can see Sterling, and you just kind of like the same thing. They're in the same boat as Geneseo and Moline. It's a certain kind of aesthetic that you just kind of associate with success. And yeah, I think what they're doing right now looks really good with navy tops. They have navy pants, or they have white pants.
Mm-hmm.
They also kind of can deviate away from my rules, so to speak. If they've got blue lids, blue top, white pants, white socks at home, that's a terrific look. And reverse at on the road, if it's blue lid, white, great look. If it's all navy, great look. So yeah, Sterling, another team that it isn't trying to deviate from what they're strong at in terms of their color scheme, and they aren't screwing it up. I think if they had yellow pants, it wouldn't look as good. Sterling they do a good job of keeping it clean and not deviating away from what works.
All right, so that's the rundown. There's every team. We've broke down the uniforms more so than people ever thought they ever needed to hear, but there it is.
Yeah, right.
You got it all laid out for you.
Yeah, there is no bad uniform in the Western Big Six. They all do a very good job.
I agree.
The other thing that you don't get in other conferences is that each school has a unique color scheme, in that whoever is playing, whoever is home, whoever is away, you would never mistake one team for the other. You're in the Western Big Six, each team is so unique. And that's, I don't know how rare that is, I guess, without knowing, the full lineup of other conferences, but you could just, from afar, you can tell which team is which. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's a great point. Now, the tough task for me and you, we got to pick our top three out of the Western Big Six.
Yeah.
Do you have your three?
I have my three, but I don't know if I have them in order yet.
My head goes to like 4 or 5 teams. I got Moline, Geneseo, Sterling, Quincy. Rock Island is somewhere in the mix. Like it's hard for me to narrow down 3.
Yeah, it's super close. The whole thing is like, I feel confident with my top 3.
Okay.
But 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8 are really close, and you could make an argument for any of them at all, really. But certainly for me, any of the 5 that I didn't select in my top 3, you could pick any one at 4.
All right. Well, let's go with number 3. Who's your third favorite in the Western Big Six?
I'm going to say Rock Island is number 3.
Okay. I'm going Quincy is my number 3.
Okay. Number 2, and this would not have been my answer last year.
Okay.
But this year is Moline. Going back to the white helmet, it's going to be an awesome look. They're number 2.
I'm going Geneseo, number 2.
Okay.
My number 2. Now, your number 1.
My number 1 is the Green Machine, Geneseo.
I like it. I'm flipped. I'm reversed to you. My number 1 is Moline.
Yeah.
I just love since they've gone with the white helmet and now they're going back to the block M. I love it. That's the look for me.
Yeah. And like I said, the whole conference you could make an argument for, and that is not how it is with all conferences in the area. They all do a really good job top to bottom.
All right. Well, hey, where are we going next? Your choice. What conference we going next?
Let's do track 8 next.
All right. Three Rivers uniform talk coming up soon. We'll promote that. But for right now, we got our top 3 that we'll save, and then eventually we'll get the area, western side of the state conferences that we cover here, which include Western Big Six, Three Rivers, Lincoln Trail, Northwest Upstate Illini. We'll take those teams, we'll rank our favorites, and we'll try to get a top 10 list out of that.
Yeah.
That sound
we
good?
can do that. Yep.
All right. Well, Mitch, thanks for joining me. You'll be a reoccurring co-host and uniform expert. You bring the goods, man. You got the uniform knowledge, so I love it.
Happy to talk about it. Happy to be on.